Hockey players. There are over 1 million players registered in just Canada and the US. It is insane to think about. If you visualize it, here's what it looks like. It is nuts how many players there are, and you are one of those players. You're competing with everyone who wants to get to the highest level of the game. Everybody wants to get to the NHL or as far as they can in some way. Everybody wants that. In a perfect world, if you were good enough, you just make millions of dollars to play hockey. If you love playing, you do it. But the reason people separate themselves is for a couple core things. Number one, there is a mindset that players who are going to get to the top have to have. Now, this is a mindset that is regardless of skill. You obviously have to have skill, and I want to context this whole video with, you have to be good enough to actually do it. Like if you have zero athletic talent, then there's no point of really pursuing an athletic goal. Just like if you have zero talent in, let's say, math, like no baseline, you're not going to try to be like an engineer. And if you do want to do that, that's awesome. But this video is not for those people who are going to go from like literally nothing and somehow make it. I'm saying the players who are on this path, you're going the right way. The reason you are going to get there is because you have a mindset that's different than other people. What is that mindset? Well, the first part of it is that you actually believe you can do it. Like wholeheartedly, in the deep down parts of your soul, you really think you can do it. And you know that it is possible. It's not guaranteed, but you could do it. Now, there's a lot of people that that's not the case for. They don't have this, what I call delusional belief in themselves. They have kind of like an average belief in themselves. They think, well, I don't really think I can do it, but I'll say I can and I'll try. I've been in that place. I was in that place for a long time during my hockey career. And what I realized is that I needed to have a complete belief, because when you have a total belief, and if you look at the top players like Connor McDavid is a great example of this. When you have these guys who are generational talents, they start to invest everything in getting better because they are 100% certain that it's going to work out. All they have to do is do the work. So if you want to make that shift, you need to have a complete belief that you can do it. It has to be delusional. It has to be crazy. If you're going to do it and you're not one of these freak talents, you have to believe something that other people are going to tell you is crazy and is wrong. I'm telling you, you have to. Right now, if you really want to do it, you have to start saying to yourself, I am going to find a way to make it to the NHL. Like, you have to start saying that. And again, I'm not guaranteeing you just because you shift your mindset to that, you can. But the only way you have any shot of getting there is having complete and total conviction, because it will allow you to put in the effort that you need to put in order to actually get there. Because you will not get to the top tier out of 1 million players that you're competing with right now who are active. And there's more every year joining in. If you're going to be competing against these players, the only way you can win and beat them is if you are, first of all, in the top 1% or better in terms of your belief in yourself. Then, the next step, once you have that complete delusional belief, the second piece is you have to train very, very consistently. And this goes along with what we were just saying, that you have that complete conviction and delusional belief in yourself. But now you have to train with complete belief. This is putting everything you have into every day. This is not putting in, again, like 90%, 95%. This is putting everything you have into getting better each day in terms of your actual effort. Now, this is the cliche, like super common thing you hear from everybody. Just put in like the complete effort, just work 100%. But what I'm saying is that you have to actually compare yourself to what the best players do. This is not comparing yourself to what your teammates do or maybe even players in your league are doing, but compare yourself to what is a guy like McDavid, or let's say a guy like Barzell or somebody like that. Like these top elite players, you can Kucherov, whoever you want. You have to get that there's those guys, and then there's also a whole bunch of other players. There's thousands of other players who are working insanely hard too. So you have to compare yourself to those top-end guys and the guys who are below them working their way up, and get that there is a huge amount of effort that actually has to be put in order to like close that gap, in order for those guys to be able to try to catch up to those elite guys And if you're going to even get to the point where you're competing with the guys who are competing for the top, you have to be comparing yourself to all of those people and saying, am I in the top 1% of these guys? Because you have to be not only better than the 99%, but you have to be better. You have to be in the top 1% of the 1%. So this is where like that hard work becomes a whole new thing, and you have to find that next gear. Now, how do you find that next gear? How you find that next gear is not just saying, well, I'm going to just work every day and whatever happens, happens. I'm saying go out and find the information you need. So whether it's going online and finding an online mental coach, I always start with mental because I'm a mental coach, but mental coach, skills coach, physical trainer, you need to find those things. So you can either go to a specific person or you can actually get that help from someone. Like you can go online and actually say, hey, like what's this information? How can I learn this? Get programs, written out programs, DM people who are in these spaces, figure out what you can do. Oftentimes they're going to have some kind of paid program. Invest in the paid programs. Again, if you click off here, go ahead. But why I say this, why it's so important, and most people won't listen to me, is because why you give money to someone for a paid program is because they've condensed years of training into a very, very smooth, consistent thing. They've made mistakes. They've worked with hundreds of athletes most likely, and they've made mistakes. They've learned and taken all these lessons and condensed them, improved a system, and then they're taking that perfectly refined, crafted system and handing it to you for an X amount of money. Usually it's a good deal if they actually want to sell it to people. So understand that if you can pay someone for their information and save you time, you can go figure that stuff out yourself. But understand that the top 1% and then the top 1% of the 1%, they're doing that. They're making the investment in themselves. So if you want to compete with those guys, it has to be an automatic. It has to be an automatic that when there's an investment to be made, you just make it. And I have to remind myself of that in the business world all the time. I have to remind myself of that in every space. And I want you to remind yourself of that every single day, that if you want to get better, you got to find that information, because you have the belief. Now you need to get the coaching that actually allows you to take the work you're doing and actually get something out of it. Because most people are putting in a whole bunch of work, but they're moving in the wrong direction. You move in the wrong direction, you get nothing. You straight up do not progress forward. You don't progress forward, then you're wasting your time in all of that effort, because you could be going what you think is a straight path, but you're really headed off to the side, and now you're going to have to work super, super hard to veer it back over and get yourself back on the path. This goes for skating mechanics. I'm sure you've learned a bad skating mechanic where you've made this mistake. You learned a bad skating mechanic, you really screwed it up, and now you're oh man, I wish I hadn't have learned this habit, because it takes so long to unlearn it. So learn the right stuff as early as you can. If you're a parent who's listening to this, give your kids a mental system that allows them to have a better mindset, focus, confidence, and hockey IQ. Then go to a skating coach or find good, high-quality online skating, and then you learn it as a parent, or if you're a player listening to this, learn that stuff, understand it, and start doing the work every day. Plan it out week to week, month to month, year to year, and have a strategy. Have a real plan and a real strategy to get better over time, or else it will not matter.